Welcome to the deep dive. You know, social media platforms, they've really become these breeding grounds for all sorts of viral challenges. Some are genuinely just harmless fun, right? But then you get others, like the one we're really digging into today, the Skullbreaker Challenge. And this one, well, it proved incredibly dangerous. So our mission for this step dive is to basically unpack the mechanics of this thing, its really serious consequences, the societal ripple effect, and, the broader implications it has for social media safety. This challenge really gained notoriety around early 2020, though I think its origins on TikTok trace back maybe late 2019.
Yeah, and what's particularly telling about this challenge, I think, is just how quickly the warnings started popping up. I mean, we're talking immediate alarm bells from parents, schools, medical professionals, even law enforcement. That kind of widespread, rapid reaction,
Mhm.
it really sets it apart from a lot of other, fleeting online trends. It underscores just how inherently dangerous it was seen to be right from the start.
Okay, so let's unpack this then. For anyone listening who might not be familiar, what exactly is the Skullbreaker Challenge? Can you walk us through it? Picture this. You've got three participants standing side by side. Okay. Now, the person in the middle, they're typically completely unaware of what's actually about to happen. They're often tricked, maybe thinking they're just doing a synchronized jump for a video or something. But here's the actual deceptive prank bit. As that middle person jumps up, the two people on either side, they simultaneously kick that person's legs out from under them, which causes this, like sudden, forceful, completely unexpected fall. And the name Skullbreaker. I mean, that's not just for shock value, is it? The victim often lands flat on their back or, terrifyingly, directly on their head. You hear about this sickening thud. It sounds just as brutal as it is.
You've hit on a really critical point there. That deceptive nature. It isn't just a minor detail, it's what makes it exponentially more dangerous. The victims are unsuspecting. They're completely unprepared to brace for that fall. And because they're unaware, their body just can't naturally protect itself. That dramatically increases the risk of really severe injury. It's not just a prank. It's a calculated setup that really exploits trust. And then if you step back, the whole thing is filmed, right? And shared. For likes, for views, for that viral fame. It's just a stark example of how social media can sometimes normalize, exploiting someone's actual pain and humiliation purely for entertainment.
Yeah, that's pretty grim. So how did something this obviously dangerous even get started and then spread so fast? From what we've gathered, sources report it actually originated in Spain back in 2019. Apparently, two students recorded themselves doing this stunt on TikTok, and from there it just exploded. By early 2020, it had spread globally. We saw incidents popping up in the US, the UK, Indonesia, Thailand, Singapore,
Yeah.
all over. It feels like a textbook case almost of how social media's rapid dissemination just amplifies reach, especially when teens are chasing that, social clout.
Right, and this really forces us to look at a kind of paradox in digital communication, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The challenge's virality wasn't just fueled by the kids posting the videos themselves. In a really counterintuitive twist, it was also inadvertently amplified by, you know, well-meaning parents and educators sharing warnings about it.
Really? So trying to warn people actually made it spread more.
In some ways, yeah. Think about that 2020 post by the Organization for Social Media Safety. By discussing it publicly, even with good intentions, they, along with many others, increased its visibility. It's not just an interesting side note, it's actually a fundamental lesson for public safety campaigns in this digital age. How do you warn effectively without accidentally amplifying the very thing you're trying to shut down? It's tricky.
That is a crucial question, isn't it? Wow. It's almost hard to grasp how quickly something so dangerous can just zip across continents, even fueled partly by people trying to do good. And speaking of the danger, let's really get into the health risks here. Because medical experts, they were really quick to sound the alarm about potential life-threatening injuries from these falls, especially when someone is caught totally unprepared.
Yeah, this is where the consequences get very real and, frankly, quite sobering.
Mm.
Falls like this, from a standing height, when someone is completely caught off guard, they can cause a whole range of devastating injuries. We're talking about concussions, first off, traumatic brain injuries. These can lead to prolonged symptoms, cognitive difficulties, emotional distress, serious academic challenges that can affect a kid for months, maybe even years.
Okay.
And beyond that, there's the risk of skull fractures or even intracranial bleeds, bleeding inside the skull. These high-impact falls can actually fracture the skull or cause bleeding in or around the brain. That can result in severe neurological deficits, or, it can even be fatal.
Fatal. Wow.
And then there's landing on the back. That can damage the spine with the absolutely terrifying possibility of paralysis.
Paralysis.
Yeah. And of course, broken bones are common too. Wrists, arms, other bones breaking as victims instinctively try, even for a split second, to brace their fall, though they really have no time to do it effectively. And even what might seem like a minor concussion, it can lead to long-term complications. It might require extended recovery, special school accommodations, tutoring. It's not a small thing.
And these aren't just theoretical risks, are they? We have actual heartbreaking cases that show just how real this was. Like back in January 2020, there was a 13-year-old boy in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. He suffered a major concussion and a seizure, ended up hospitalized after being tricked into this, and get this, 2 of his classmates actually faced third-degree aggravated assault charges over it.
Wow. Assault charges.
Yeah. And in Massachusetts, another 13-year-old, Kathleen DeShizis, she experienced temporary paralysis and a concussion. She described this awful numbness in her limbs. And we saw similar reports coming out of Pennsylvania, Oregon, Arkansas, Alabama, documenting everything from broken bones right up to severe brain trauma. Even across the pond in the UK, a teenager was hospitalized with a spinal injury. So, I mean, listening to these examples, what really stands out to you about them?
What's truly harrowing, I think, is the sheer consistency of these awful outcomes.
Yeah.
It wasn't just one bad incident. It was happening across different regions to different victims. Temporary paralysis, serious brain trauma. It's clear this wasn't some kind of fluke accident during a game. These are children whose lives were, potentially irrevocably changed. Not by an accident, but by a deliberate act of prank filmed for views.
Yeah.
That human cost, right? The reality behind the likes and shares that naturally fueled this widespread outrage, which you mentioned led to action.
Absolutely. Yeah. Given these severe consequences and just how obviously dangerous it was, it's no surprise there was a massive public backlash. And that quickly led to some pretty significant actions. Schools all over the world started issuing warnings. Some, like those in Singapore, apparently threatened expulsion for any student caught participating. And law enforcement got involved too in several places, like those prosecutors in Camden County, New Jersey, charging minors with aggravated assault and endangering an injured victim. Serious charges.
And this really brings up the critical discussion about the role of the platforms themselves, right?
Yeah.
TikTok, where it largely spread, what did they do? Well, TikTok did respond. They updated their community guidelines, making it clear that content promoting dangerous challenges violates their policies, which seems obvious, but they stated it. They also removed reported videos and added warning labels under the hashtag #SkullbreakerChallenge hashtag, trying to discourage people from doing.
Okay, so they took some steps.
They did. But a common critique emerged pretty quickly. People argued that platforms need to do more proactively, not just reactively waiting for reports. Because even after TikTok removed videos, they were still popping up on other sites, like YouTube. The content finds a way. And beyond the technical policy stuff, there are huge ethical implications here. The very act of deceiving and harming a peer, just for entertainment, it risks normalizing cruelty. It can foster this sort of indifference in young people, which raises big questions about bullying and peer pressure in the digital age.
Yeah, that normalization is scary. There was one story that really highlighted these ethical questions for me. Olivia Ross, a 17-year-old from Oregon, she suffered the physical injuries, obviously, but then she also faced this awful social ostracism. Peers were falsely claiming she'd consented to the whole thing.
Oh, that's terrible. Adding insult to injury, literally.
Exactly, but her incredibly difficult experience, she actually turned it around later. She ended up collaborating with TikTok, helping them remove harmful content, basically turning her victimhood into advocacy for safer online spaces.
Pretty powerful. So, okay, that brings us to the big why, doesn't it? Why on earth do teens participate in something so obviously dangerous? What are the psychological drivers pushing them to do this?
Yeah, it's complex. Psychologists point to several factors, and it's definitely more than just simple peer pressure, although that's part of it. There's this powerful allure of instant popularity. Viral challenges seem to offer immediate peer acceptance, social clout. That's incredibly compelling during adolescence, right? When you're figuring out your identity, seeking validation.
Sure, that makes sense.
Dr. Sabrina Sykes made a point about this, noting how these activities can enhance teens' self-concept through likes and followers. That immediate feedback loop drives participation, sometimes even when they know the risks. Another really key insight is the desensitization effect of social media.
Desensitization, how does that work? Well, the constant exposure to extreme content, shocking videos, pranks, it can kind of numb users to harm over time. Recording and sharing painful or humiliating stunts starts to feel, well, almost normalized, less shocking. And ultimately, that quest for virality, for getting seen, often overshadows common sense. Participants might prioritize potential fame, even fleeting internet fame, over their own safety or the safety of others.
So a mix of wanting validation, becoming numb to risky content, and just chasing those views?
Pretty much. It's a potent combination, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So tackling these dangerous social media challenges, it really needs a multifaceted approach. It's clear no single group can solve this on their own. First, parental education is just crucial. Parents need to try and monitor their kids' social media activity, yes, but maybe more importantly, have open, honest conversations about the risks. Talk about peer pressure, encourage critical thinking, help teens recognize and resist these harmful trends.
Okay, so parents are one piece. What else?
School interventions are essential too. Integrating digital literacy into the curriculum seems vital. Teach students how to recognize harmful trends, how to avoid them, and generally, how to be responsible digital citizens.
Makes sense. Digital literacy is key.
Then there's platform accountability. This is a big one. Social media companies really need to step up their content moderation. That means using better AI and human oversight to swiftly identify and remove dangerous videos. And maybe going beyond just warning labels or waiting for user reports. Be more proactive.
Right, getting ahead of it more.
Exactly. And finally, community awareness. Public campaigns can help raise awareness about the real-world consequences of these challenges and encourage everyone to report unsafe content when they see it, creating a sort of collective vigilance.
That really frames it as a collective responsibility, doesn't it? Parents, schools, platforms, the wider community. Everyone has a role. It's not just one group's problem to fix. So, wrapping up, the Skullbreaker Challenge, well, thankfully it seems to have faded from the headlines now, it really does exemplify the darker side of social media, wouldn't you say? It serves as this really stark reminder of how that pursuit of virality, of online fame, can lead to truly devastating, sometimes life-altering consequences.
Absolutely. Its rapid spread, the severity of the injuries it caused, and the broad societal impact. It all just underscores this critical, ongoing need for vigilance in our digital spaces. By fostering awareness, promoting responsible platform governance, and crucially, empowering young people to make informed, critical decisions, we can all work together to try and mitigate the risks of these kinds of trends in the future.
Yeah. The Skullbreaker Challenge itself might have faded, like you said, but its lessons remain so critical, especially as new, similar viral stunts inevitably continue to emerge online. So it leaves us with this thought, doesn't it? What does all this really mean for how we as a society navigate this constantly evolving landscape of online trends? And what's our shared responsibility in trying to keep these digital spaces safer for everyone, especially kids?